2023. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Law by filing the notice in the office of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board at the municipal building on December the 21st, 2022, where it has remained posted since that date. A legal notice appeared in the Daily Record and the Newark Star Ledger on December the 28th, 2022. Council meetings are videotaped and aired on Public Access Channel 21 at 7 p.m. Sundays and Wednesdays, and are also available for viewing at www.parsippany.net. Would you please stand for the flag salute? We have two young ladies visiting us today, Lauren Smith from Parsippany High School and Sanika Packenter from the Hills. They would lead us in the salute.
Pledge allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Karifi? Here. Mr. DePiero?
Here.
Mr. Musella?
Here.
Mr. Neglia?
Here.
Also in attendance are Mayor James Barbario, Business Administrator Jamie Cryan, Township Attorney Michael Lavery, and Municipal Clerk Colette Madden. Council President, we have a quorum. You may begin.
Thank you. Upcoming meetings, March 7th, 23 at 7 p.m. It's an agenda meeting. March 21st, 23, 7 p.m. We have a regular meeting.
Approval of minutes, reorganization meeting 1/4/23, agenda meeting 1/4/23, regular meeting 1/24/23. Motion to approve the minutes above by myself.
Second. Motion made by Mr. Neglia, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
And Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Mayor, presentations, reports?
Excuse me?
Presentations and reports,
No,
Mayor?
I have nothing at this moment.
Okay.
When we get to the ordinances is when I'll speak
Okay.
with regard to one of our ordinances.
Lauren and Sanika, would you like to just give us a little update as to what's occurring at your high schools?
Hi everyone, my name is Lauren Smith, and I'm a senior at Parsippany High School. Nice to meet you all, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight about what events and activities are going on in my school. So last Friday, the seniors had senior fun night at Diamond Gymnastics from 8 to 10. The students were able to jump on trampolines, eat pizza, and go rock climbing and more. This weekend, Frankie Demary won District 7 for wrestling, and Malik Alzubi got second place. Both of the boys will compete in regionals this week. Currently, they're scheduling meetings happening during school for students to meet with their guidance counselors so they can put together a schedule that will prepare them for their futures. On Thursday through Saturday night, Central will be having its spring musical, The Lion King, at the high school at 7 p.m. Games with friends at the PAL will be attending on Thursday night to watch together and cheer on two of our friends in the ensemble. Also on Thursday, the junior class will be holding a dodgeball tournament to raise money for their junior dinner. On Friday, our senior quotes are due to Ms. Cozen, and the quotes have to be under 100 characters, and they have to cite their quotes properly if they're quoting another person. On the 27th, the senior class will be having a Giant to Donate fundraiser at Gourmet Cafe, and Student Council is working hard on the Glammies. The Glammies are the senior superlatives at the high school, and will be on Wednesday, March 1st in the auditorium at 7 to 9. The seniors who are nominated get dressed up in semi-formal wear and wait to hear if they won an award during the ceremony. And also during the ceremony, there's skits and presenters, and we try to raise money for prom. And that's all I have.
Hi everyone, I'm Sanika. I'm a junior at the I'm a junior at the Hills. I also, like Lauren said, want to thank you guys for letting me have the opportunity to speak here tonight. So scheduling appointments with counselors have started, so we just talk about like course selection for next year. And there were mandatory interest meetings for lacrosse, softball, and spring track during school unit lunch this week. The Interact Club is hosting a food drive. After the holiday, food shelters were running low, so they were trying to help, and we have collected 200 pounds of food so far. On Friday, this Friday, at 6 p.m., we have our annual Hills Senior Standout Show, recognizing the seniors, which is the superlative show. And all proceeds go to the Imagine or NJASC State Charity. Each ticket is worth $5, and at the end of the night, we all donate it back. The Parsippany Hills High School Academic Decathlon team participated in the New Jersey Region 3 competition. Member Ash Stone earned 10 medals for the school. The IPPL, or Institute of Political and Legal Education mock trial team, has made it to the semifinals. During the first round, our team defeated Boonton, and then the defense team defeated Hanover Park. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Members of the Township Council?
Nothing at this time.
Okay.
Nothing.
Mr. Lavery?
Nothing at this time, Council President.
Mr. Cryan?
Thank you, Council President. Just wanted to quickly let the public know that if they need to reach out to my office, number is 973-263-4391, or you can reach me on my cell phone at 973-791-2519, or you can email me if you're having any issues dealing with any department, or if there's anything that I could do to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Township Clerk?
No report at this time, Council President. Thank you.
Township Officers Committee reports?
I just have one thing regarding that. The Traffic Advisory Committee met, but one of the topics that was discussed was deer carcasses on the road. And when people drive by and see them there day after day after day, the town gets blamed, and the town is not the party that's supposed to pick those up. There's a contract that the county gives out, and that private company is supposed to pick up the carcasses. If something is called into the police department, the police dispatcher should know how to reach that company and tell them where the carcass is that should be picked up. And there should be no carcasses more than a day or two or three at the most at any one spot. They should be picked up. My advice is to call the police dispatcher and let them know when you see one. It's heartbreaking to see those poor deer on the side of the road.
The Economic Development Committee this past Saturday had a ribbon cutting for a new salon in Lake Hiawatha, In Vogue. They are located at 54 North Bevwick Road. Upcoming ribbon cuttings, February 23rd at 4 o'clock. Cornerstone First Mortgage, 6th Century Drive, Suite 180 in Parsippany. Tuesday, March 14th at 2 o'clock, Mathesium, 135 North Bevwick Road in Lake Hiawatha. Our next economic development meeting is Wednesday, March 1st at 6:30, 90 East Halsey Road, 3rd floor, and the public is welcome. Thank you. Engineering report.
Engineering report, 2021 road resurfacing curb and sidewalk program. The annual road resurfacing curb and sidewalk project is on hold pending negotiations with the contractor. No council action required. Rockaway River flood wall and levee inspection. Our consultant is working on preparing design details and a cost estimate for the maintenance and repair work to the flood wall and levee. Recent site inspections were made to aid in the design of the repairs. Once the design and necessary permitting is complete, the project will be advertised for bid. No council action required. North Bevwick Road Streetscape Project Phase 1. First phase of the North Bevwick Road Streetscape Project is in design. We anticipate bidding this project over the winter. No council action required. Drumlin Drive Stream Cleaning. The NJDEP permits have been issued for this project. Our consultant is finishing the design, and we intend to bid this project over the winter. No council action required. Puddingstone Heights Road Improvement Project Phase 2. The second phase of the Puddingstone Heights Road Improvement Project is in design. We anticipate bidding the project in the spring. No council action required. Jefferson Road improvements, we received a $760,000 NJDOT grant for improvements to Jefferson Road from Parsippany Road to Smith Road. The improvements include the resurfacing of the roadway, minor intersection upgrades, and significant drainage improvements, particularly near East Halsey Road intersection. Plans are in design and the project will be bid once NJDEP permits have been issued. No council action required. Mount Tabor Street improvements, Phase 7. The Mount Tabor Street Improvements Phase 7 project is in design. We anticipate bidding this project over the winter. No council action required. Lake Intervale Area Street Improvements. The first phase of Lake Intervale Area Street Improvement Project is in design. We anticipate bidding this project once funding is available. No council action required. Roadway design projects. The following projects are in design or proposals have been requested. Troy Brook Stream Cleaning, Sylvan Way Sidewalk Improvements, River and Stream Desnagging Plans and Permits, Etten Road Traffic Study, Sylvan Way Culvert Improvements. No council action required.
Before we move on, North Bevick Road Streetscape Project, Phase 1. We still have not had a presentation to tell us what this project entails, who the consultant is.
You will be having one. I spoke to the council president yesterday with regards to that. We're also gonna have a meeting with the Economic Development Committee and the Traffic Committee, with regards to that. But there will be a presentation given by the township engineer.
Well, I also want to know, I know we have a grant coming for that, but is it a matching grant? How much do we put in? What's going to be in the budget? We don't see any, we haven't had any of that information.
I don't think it was a matching grant, but I know that the grant was, we recommended if they would extend it for us, because we had a time period to do it, and they did extend it, for us.
But do we have to match it?
I don't think we have to match
Is it a
it.
bond?
We would, not, we, don't- we, it's, we're only, I think we're only getting this first phase, if I'm correct, $750,000 for the first phase. There will be a phase 2, and we will apply once again for, funding. But I don't think we have to match it. We're gonna have to, I mean, if the project costs more than $750,000, we're gonna have to bond the difference probably.
And that's what I want to know.
Yeah, but that's not matching it, that's just bonding the difference. That's why, I know what you're saying with the bonding, like, very similar to the library, we have to match it.
Okay, thank you.
Bids taken, January 19th, 2023, electrical upgrades to wells number 12 and 13. On January 25th, 2023, Baldwin Road sanitary sewer modifications. January 25th, 2023, 2022 or newer Ford F-550 regular cab 4x4 DRW for Parsippany Water Department. January 26, 2023, well 21-R replacement well and treatment facility improvements. February 16, 2023, remount and re-chassis of 2 new 2023 or newer Ford F-550 4x4 Super Cab Type 1 modular ambulance. February 16th, 2023, lease of public property to be taken. February 22nd, 2003, reconstruction of various streets in Mount Tabor, Phase 7. There are no quotations, proposals, or qualifications. I'd like to entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Make a motion.
Second?
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Musella. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes,
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes. The floor is open to the public on any matter. You have 5 minutes to speak. Come on up, Bob. You can, ma'am, you don't have to raise your hand. You can just come up to the mic. You can go next.
Hi, my name is Bob Venezia. I live at 102 Brooklawn Drive. At the last council meeting, Mayor Barbario brought up two important items in his report to the council. The first item was the fact that Moody's and Standard & Poor's credit rating for the township of Parsippany would remain the same. As the mayor and the business administrator pointed out, this is a positive development for the township because a decrease in the credit rating would have caused Parsippany's borrowing costs to increase, which would have to be paid for by increasing taxes. The second item reported by the mayor was the replenishment of the $1.5 million that had been transferred from the sewer surplus fund to the general budget in 2022. On the surface, that sounds like another positive occurrence for Parsippany. But based on the limited information that I have, I don't know everything that you guys know, but I believe that this transfer replenishment maneuver is just a clever way of doing an end run around the 2% cap on the budget. As I see it, an extra $1.5 million was needed to balance the 2022 general budget, but that amount could not be generated within the general budget, because of the 2% cap restriction. So in order to make up the deficit, the decision was made to transfer $1.5 million from the sewer surplus fund to the general budget. The resulting deficit in the sewer budget, which is not restricted by a cap, was then replenished by increasing sewer rates by 10%. In other words, the administration got to spend an extra $1.5 million in the general budget, which taxpayers pay for with a 10% increase in sewer rates. On more than one occasion, Councilmember DiPiero described this procedure as robbing Peter to pay Paul. Apparently, it's legal to use inter-budget transfers to get around the 2% cap, but that doesn't make it right. And taxpayers certainly do not benefit from this practice. It's very difficult for me to accept replenishment as a good thing when it results in higher sewer rates for the taxpayer. There may be circumstances that the public is not aware of, which might explain why the scenario that I've just have described is incorrect. If there are, I think I and the taxpayers would like to hear about them. Thank you.
Council President, may I please respond?
Please.
Mr. Venezia, you were at the meeting the last time, and I explained to you with regards to the 10% increase, which really had nothing to do with the surplus. It had to do with the fact that from 2017 all the way to 21 and 22, our bonds are coming due. I explained to you that $3 million annually in water bonds are going to come due each year. I explained to you that $3.5 million in sewer would be coming due, and that's one of the reasons why the rates had to be increased. Not only that, we got hit with the lead copper rule. Well, first it was a lead copper rule from the federal government, and then the state decided to increase that to galvanized pipes. We have no lead in Parsippany, but we have galvanized pipes, which is all around Tabor, which is going to cost the water department $4.5 million to complete the project. That is one of the reasons why we had to do what we had to do. With regards to the replenishment of the sewer surplus, which I explained, that increase really had nothing to do with the 10%, because 10% is for this year coming. It wasn't for last year. So, you know, I stated that as well, at least I believe I did. Now, we can put a spin on anything we want. You came up, you made some comments, but you didn't put in there about the bonding. You didn't put anything in there about the water, the lead copper rule, which, in my opinion, I don't think we should have to do. The state mandates it, and we're not going to get any funding. All the funding is going to be going to the urban areas, not to Parsippany. And the hardship it's going to have on the residents in Mount Tabor. So we're stuck with that, and we have no choice, because that's the state's mandate.
And if you had all these expenses, why did you take 1.5 million out of the sewer?
And now, do you want to go back and forth? It's up to you, but I will. I have no issue with it.
Generally,
I have
what
I'm going to answer the question.
We're going to allow this.
No, I'm going to answer it real quick. When I took office, Mr. Vizia, you know the state that the town was in. You know that I left $23 million in surpluses total. Current fund, 6 point something million. You're looking at the sewer, 10 million, 6 million in the water. I came back to 8.5 million in the hole. Okay? So, if we didn't use the 1.5, the tax levy would have been even higher. Well, I wasn't gonna do that to the taxpayers. I have no qualm in taking the 1.5 million, bring it over to the current fund to reduce the burden even further. And as you know, and I stated this on many occasions, it was very painful what we had to do in 2022, a 14.63% tax levy increase. But that's the only way out of it. That was the only way out, and I explained that. I explained it during the campaigning. I explained it saying this is what it's gonna take. I explained to you that for the last 4 years, I became a certified public manager. I understand the concept. I understand what it takes. We don't put that 1.5 million in there, guess what? The taxes would have been even higher. The tax rate was 3.1% thanks to the county and the schools. But that trend's not gonna keep going on, so we had to make some tough decisions. I made them, and I know you're against using it. It's illegal to do it, but like I said in the past, when I did it, when I was mayor in the very beginning, we replenished it. What happened was, when the last 4 years, it wasn't being replenished. That's the difference. Now, if I saw the trend going where we couldn't replenish it as much as we wanted to, then we probably would have backed away on it. But when you leave $23 million in total surplus, and I come back to 8.5 million in the hole, due to the fact that revenues were anticipated incorrectly, that's what you should be going after, from 2021, 20 and 21, and revenues are anticipated extremely high, knowing those revenues were not gonna come in because of COVID. A perfect example is hotel tax. It was anticipated at $2 million, only 900,000 came in. So guess what? In 2022, I had to make up 1.1 million already. That's besides the 1.5 we had to take from the sewer surplus, but I already had to take 1.1 million. Interest was anticipated incorrectly. Construction was anticipated incorrectly. So when you total all those numbers up, it comes to 8.5 million. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Venezia. Thank you,
Okay.
Mayor.
Good evening. My name is Camille Pesha. I live in Murray Court, and I'm here on behalf of myself, my family, and my neighbors to oppose ordinance 2023-01 for the overlay, OBL 8 overlay which we currently have in place, ROL, Research Office Facility. This impacts us on Murray Court directly because the overlay is right behind our properties. We don't have a half an acre or even a quarter acre of properties. We have very small properties that have a very small buffer. When I first moved there 25 years ago, our buffer was double, but it was voted by you guys 15 years ago and they cut it in half. So for 15 years, we've been looking at headlights because that buffer that was removed was replaced by cars, and also they are allowed a third floor onto the ROL facility, which right behind me is 7th Century. 7th Century is part of this ordinance. This ordinance will allow for production facilities, distribution facilities, and all kinds of 24-hour distribution, hubs for travel, things of that nature. It will permit food to be made and distributed. It will completely change the quality of our life on Murray Court. We've been coexisting okay with the research office facilities. And actually, I know some of the people now. But this would transform the entire nature of our street and our community in Lake Parsippany. We cannot allow this to happen. We implore you not to change the zoning, to keep the zoning as is. If we were an acre away or 2 acres away, maybe it would be okay. I've got 20 feet in my backyard. I see the headlights. My son's kids are right there. They see the 3rd floor. They look right into the children's rooms. We can't have a manufacturing facility. Now, let me tell you, I have a lot of experience in manufacturing facilities. I retired as a global head of a big pharma company, so I had to approve every change, every compliance change. I know what can happen to our neighborhood. So I implore you not to pass the zoning. I know Parsippany needs ratables. I understand the change that the pandemic brought about. We don't have enough people going to the offices. But there's plenty other locations that do not impact families like it would impact the quality of our life. So I implore you not to do this change, not to do this rezoning. We lost on the last rezoning that I told you when they took away our buffers and put in a parking lot and a 3rd floor that looks directly into my home. We lost when they put the new ball field, that they took away half of our buffers, our trees, and they put a ball field that's only used twice a month, that during that time, the 2 months that it's used, we see the lights, we hear the noise, we live with it, we coexist. But I don't know if we can coexist with having a manufacturing facility in our backyard, 24 hours. We don't know. And the huge trucks and the trailers, that would be allowed because it would be theirs. So please, we implore you not to approve the zoning, not on our street. Go where there's other kind of corporate centers that have no impact of life. I don't want to be pushed out of my home. I like it here. I've been here 25 years.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
We're gonna respond at the end.
Administration? Anyone from the administration would like to respond?
If you want me to respond, I wrote something out because I knew this would be coming up here tonight with regards, but I just want to read something to the record here with regards to it. And, can you hear me? All right, good. Well, several things here. It's no secret that the top priority of our town is to repurpose vacant buildings in Parsippany. I campaigned on that issue and I govern on that issue. Vacant commercial buildings are bad for Parsippany for many reasons. One, they lose value, shifting the tax burden onto our residential taxpayers. Two, they create public safety hazards. Vacant buildings become refuge centers for drugs and crime. Three, there's an opportunity cost by not having commercial properties being utilized to its fullest. High tax revenues and jobs are significant public benefits enjoyed by occupied buildings. Now, this comes from a report from Newmark, which is a highly respectable firm. According to a recent market research report by the highly respected Newmark firm, over 70% of local office inventory was constructed before 1990. So many of our commercial properties are obsolete and need to be repurposed. 38% of office space in Parsippany is available for use, and that is too high. Again, one headwind we have is the age of space and available in the existing buildings. Now, this overlay zone applies to 3 properties, 3 Century, 5 Century, and 7 Century. All 3 were included in the overlay based on the recommendation of our planner. 7 Century will be completely vacant in this coming September. 3 Century is vacant now. Though I understand the lease is still in effect, will be vacant with little or no hope of being leased. Again, vacant commercial building is precisely what we need to remedy. There are 2 options. One, expand the commercial use permitted so that these properties contribute meaningful taxes and create jobs, which was what the proposed overlay zone accomplishes. Of 2 of these properties will become apartment. Well, here's what I will say. You have the 3 properties I just spoke about. I think the next round of affordable housing that's coming up is 2025. Okay, these buildings, and we're finding out now, they're not being leased out. COVID has changed the way that companies are now doing business. They're not taking any office spaces, very little. These three areas will become prime for, as we know, affordable housing. So what would happen, it would all become housing, and then you have to have the affordable housing, formula put in effect of it. It would be, in my opinion, it would be a lot bigger, and the tax revenues would not be as positive. First, the planning board has reviewed the ordinance and has determined that it is consistent with our master plan. Any change to the buildings will require a site plan approval. And from what I understand, that the ordinance will increase the buffer to 150 feet. And a lot of this stuff, a lot of everything that's being talked about would be done at the planning board, the questioning and stuff like that. So we have to do something here in Parsippany, because I can tell you firsthand, I'm going around, I'm meeting with some of these commercial property owners, they're not doing nothing. And if we don't do something, we don't repurpose our buildings, we don't do anything like that, well, I can tell you right now, the taxes, they're gonna go up, because there's only gonna be one source of revenues to get, and that's from the residential. So the balance is, we have to repurpose, and that's the whole idea of this ordinance.
No, sorry.
My main point is this, any questions that you're gonna have with regards to what's going to go there, that's the site plan. You would ask those questions to the planning board members at that time. That's pretty much how it would work. And all the council's doing tonight is, passing the ordinance if they agree with it.
The glut of office space that we have now, some of those office buildings are already being torn down to make room for affordable housing in round 3 of our affordable housing obligation. If these buildings remain vacant that we're talking about now, they're gonna be used for round 4, which starts in 2025 of affordable housing. We needed to begin to repurpose these vacant office buildings, repurpose them before they get turned into some more apartments for the round that starts in 2025 of affordable housing. All of the questions you have and all of the concerns you have will be addressed at the planning board when there is an applicant and a specific application is being proposed. That's when you react to concerns that were expressed here tonight.
Do you want to say anything about the district, of receiving the ordinance information? It was in the 100 feet, or was it 200 feet?
She really wasn't here.
Okay.
Mike Fumero, resident, 11 Murray Court, 25 years. This doesn't say anything about affordable housing, though. It talks about manufacturing.
No, the problem is that somebody can come in and say, you're not providing enough affordable housing. So the only thing builders are looking to build right now is pretty much warehousing and apartments. So what the point that the mayor was making and the council vice president was that we're going to have another round in 2025. We haven't built all the affordable housing that the state has required us to build already. So what's going to happen is these are prime locations for that. So if it doesn't get repurposed, a developer could come in and say, I'm going to build affordable housing there, and there's not much we're going to be able to do about it if we haven't met our requirements.
So the mayor mentioned a buffer zone. There will be theoretically
150 feet. And then
150 feet from our fence.
Property line. So it's 150-foot buffers required under the overlay zone ordinance.
So
Yes.
there's going to be forest there, vegetation, there's going to be natural earth
That will all
there.
be discussed at the planning board level.
Right.
The planning board has the control over that with whoever the developer is.
All right,
And
but-
your input at that point that's where you should raise those questions.
And
Well,
and the
what else
ordinance,
could
the
possibly
ordinance
be
has
there?
150.
Green grass?
The ordinance
We need
has
something to
150,
buffer
they
the north.
specify vegetation. So
But
pine
we
trees.
need trees there, or pine trees, or, we need layers of that. If
No, no, no.
150 feet should be utilized to its fullest extent.
Understood. The ordinance states that, but it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. So when an applicant comes in front of the planning board, if and when they do that, that would be the time to show up and say, we want these type of things in the buffer. But it is a 150-foot vegetative buffer.
Or even mounds of earth.
Yeah, and
Like
again,
knolls.
depending on the size of the building, again, these are site plan issues that whoever the applicant is going to have to come before the planning board and go through that process. And then questions like that about what type of landscaping they're going to put in there, if they're going to put berms in there, they're all things that you can ask the applicant, you can ask the board about, and they can require the applicant to do.
But there'll be certain limitations depending on if it's housing, requires some noise level limitation on what they'll buffer as opposed to a distribution center with trucks making noise at all hours of the night, pulling out where it makes the most noise.
There's limitations. We have other ordinances.
stopping.
We have other ordinances that limit that, and we have other noise ordinances that you're not going to be able to exceed. I'm not saying this is going to be perfect. No use is ever perfect, but it's unfortunately commercial office space is just not, I mean, you look around, you see what's going on in town. So,
I know, but will we get the consideration of that happening and trying to hear our pleas for the quality of life that we're trying to maintain?
Well, that's something
The
that,
noise pollution that will
that's something
occur.
that the mayor, the vice,
The planning board,
the
that's
planning
something that
board
would,
will, yes.
and that's exactly, that would be, those questions would be answered at the planning board. We've had many applications with noise and site where there were stipulations that were, in order for them to be granted the approval, that was part of what the application for us to approve would be site, noise, setback, vegetation, all that kind of stuff. And then the residents have a opportunity to voice their concerns.
I mean, to do the counter of the man-made landscape and counter that with an ecological barrier that would provide birds and wildlife a sanctuary as well as giving us that noise barrier protection. I mean, if you're gonna add 150, what is it?
Foot
Feet,
buffer.
A buffer.
Right, which really isn't that much. But if you are, I mean, let's give back to us and nature at the same time. Maybe that's something, think ahead.
Well, that's something as been stated previously. When you go to the planning board, when this application comes before the planning board, that's your opportunity and your neighbors to go before the planning board and express your concerns and express your wants. That's where that all has to be addressed. Okay?
Here's what I will say. I understand the concerns, I really do. But the township's hands are tied with this affordable housing. I don't agree with it. It's state mandated. I think it's a perfect example. From when I left in 2017, you're going to see 3,332 new units coming to Parsippany. Yeah, and because of the affordable housing, it's considered inherently beneficial use. Try to deny it. It's almost impossible. So what we're trying to avoid here is the same thing happening over there. Now, when I was the mayor the first time around, I took a lot of shots for the Waterview Plaza, because they wanted to put 666 units there. But I met with the developer, and what we got was a Whole Foods and some anchor stores. And then after we have a settlement agreement, what happens? Fair Share Housing sues the town, saying we tried to circumvent the affordable housing. And all from a decision on March 10th, 2015, it's changed the landscape. Those properties, if they stay vacant, will become valuable for affordable housing. And you're not talking about 1, 2 stories, you're talking 3 to 4 stories. And that's what they're getting right now, because it fits our master plan. So, I felt bad for the planning board over the last 4 years when I wasn't here, but I would have been no difference who the mayor was. The fact of the matter, this is the law, and we have to follow it. The last thing you want to do is lose your immunity, if you don't listen, and that's what we're trying to avoid here. I get it. I mean, I understand what you guys are feeling, but I'll tell you right now, if you go by Lanadex, see what's happening over there now, it will happen over there as well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You can just come up, gentlemen. You don't have to raise your hand. You can just come on up.
Hi, my name's Julia Peterson. I live on Old Parsippany Road, and I'm not speaking to the overlay ordinance, actually, but it's a related thing. And before I start, I want to say thank you to all of you for serving, because those of us that have ever been related to a public official, and I've been related to two now, it's a tough, tough job. Okay, and I also sympathize with all of you trying to balance the needs of all these different needs. I mean, keeping the taxes low, keeping the buildings filled, keeping the people happy. That's like three big rhinoceroses bearing down on all of us. I have to say that as someone who lives in the Lake Parsippany area and the Green Hills Plaza area, the area in need of redevelopment, which is now we have a joke, is we call it Park at Parsippany. And we've already been living through a year of construction and deconstruction, which is dirty, noisy. It's impacted our water pressure. It's impacted our electrical supply. So the problem with development and redevelopment is that it puts more stress on the infrastructure. And Parsippany's infrastructure is kind of old. I mean, it's older than me, and that's pretty old. So I request of you that when you consider another area of redevelopment, any place, and I understand why things need to change, because, we all think of this as a suburb, a place where there used to be cows 50 years ago, our kids rode their bikes. This is going to be a city. It's going to be a city, and it's up to us to decide what kind of a city it's going to be. Where will the things that people want and need be? So I just ask you to carefully consider any other areas in need of redevelopment, although I've just found out that an area of redevelopment doesn't supersede the zoning ordinances. Is that right?
Well, you still have the underlying zoning still exists. So the area in need of redevelopment, you're really negotiating with the developer, as to something that's beneficial to the town and obviously beneficial to them. So, the underlying zoning is always still there.
Okay, but when there's an area in need of redevelopment, who gets noticed? Who gets noticed about it?
Ms. Peterson, would you please ask your questions and then administration
Okay,
will
all right, so I'll
answer?
finish
Thank
up.
you.
I don't have a lot more to say.
Thank you.
And I do think that, when an area is considered as an area where everything should be ripped down and redeveloped, you really have to think about who's living around there, where the schools are around there, things like that. And also, we have near us a building that's completely occupied, a completely occupied building, which may be considered as an area of redevelopment. We also have a completely empty building that $2 million was put into 10 years ago. And when that happened, the people who had the lot next door gave up their development rights because that building needed the parking to be legal. So it gets, next to us, all that area has been subdivided, whereas in an area, it was called an ROL, and it wasn't supposed to be subdivided in the 70s and 80s, and that was a long time ago too. Okay, anyhow, just when you're making these decisions, remember that there are people living all over Parsippany near these decisions. Okay, thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Louis Eswood, and I live at 35 Murray Court. I have a question for the council to consider. Well, my question is, in this ordinance, it's 3 century, 5 century, and 7 centuries, 3 lots. Once this ordinance is passed, could a developer come in and build a warehouse completely across all three lot and blocks? Because I know that the owner of the property, KF Schoolhouse, Kirshner Properties, could they build a huge Amazon or, a Walmart distribution center and occupy the entire three lots?
If that application went like that
Yeah.
to the planning board, it would be turned
I
down.
don't think they can.
Okay.
The planning board has total jurisdiction over
Yeah.
that.
All right.
No, the planning board and the Board of Adjustment, in case some of you have never visited any of those meetings. They're all residents of Parsippany on the planning board and the Board of Adjustment. They have concerns about the community, they have your concerns. Parks and Forestry will look for buffers, and what type of buffers should go up, or berms. That's all done at the planning board level. And these are your neighbors, your residents who are on those boards. And they share your concerns. And they do the best they can, traffic impact, environmental impact, quality of life issues. They look at all of that and try to come up with what's best for the residents. We are hindered. I've been on the planning board for 25 years.
I know. I'm sorry to see you're leaving.
Thank you. We are hindered by the land use laws and what we can and cannot do. But there's a lot we can do, and we have been doing, to try to protect our residents.
One other question. How did someone come up with 150 feet buffer with this ordinance?
The plan.
The planner did that, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Could that be increased?
That could be at the planning board level, you can ask for something more.
Could we also say 3 and 5 is okay, but not 7?
I don't know if we can go that far.
Because if you remember on 7, as this other lady mentioned, about 15, 18 years ago, they wanted to build a larger parking lot. They took all our buffer, except for maybe 35 to 25 feet, right? Yeah. And we agreed to that. And I remember that meeting. There was options on the table that this board could have taken, and they did not. They sided with the property owner. It was more expensive for them to put it in the front, put it on the side by Halsey, and this council decided, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that.
Which body was doing that?
The council.
The council?
The council and the planning board. They took our buffer away from us when there was plenty of property on the Halsey side. And they said that because of the land and it was a mountain there, they had to dig it out, etc. In the front of the building is a huge front. And you guys basically said, well, we didn't want to have parking in front because we put the library there. We wanted it to aesthetically look good. So we all said, okay, we can't fight it. And that's what happened. You promised we would put trees up, which you did put trees up. Go there now and see how many are dead. They're all brown. They don't maintain them. They don't replace them.
Well, when that application
But we
comes
haven't
before the planning
complained.
board, we're gonna put better trees up. How's that?
We haven't complained.
We do have the jurisdiction to require buffers, and the Parks and Forestry will tell us what would be the best buffers, what type of evergreens or berms should go there. We'll do what we can to protect the residents on that planning board,
Okay.
but that's where all of these concerns get addressed, not at this
But
level.
because all 3 properties are owned by the same owner, that's how the ordinance was built with 3 different lots and blocks?
Well, there are no plans yet that we have seen.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, right.
at this point, all we did now is approve a concept,
Okay.
an overlay zone, to try to repurpose properties that are gonna end up with affordable housing if we don't repurpose them before that.
So what you're telling me is that the owner of these 3 properties didn't come to you to ask for this ordinance?
No.
This ordinance came from the planning board.
Oh. Interesting. I have no further comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
First time here, so I'm learning as I'm going. I apologize. If I ask any questions, I seem a little novice, I apologize.
You're lefty, so you don't have to apologize. I need to write his name.
So,
Sir,
Yes,
we'd
sir.
like your name and address, please.
sure, Rishi Singh, I reside at 108 Gloucester Road. I've been, living in Parsippany for about 10 years now. So, without keeping it too long-winded.
Could you just get a little closer to the mic?
Sorry.
Please, thank you.
So I endorse all the statements by Camille, by Mike, sorry, I didn't remember your name, Julie. So when my wife and I used to live in Somerville, right? My wife and I, we were looking for a place that was equal in distance from, for both of us commuting. She works in New Providence, I'm a lead engineer out of Wayne. We looked at Rockaway, we looked at, Mine Hill, we looked pretty much everything within like a 15 to 20 mile distance surrounding Parsippany. We moved into Parsippany because we loved, one thing we noticed when we drove around the area, it seemed the town did a very, very good job of keeping its residents secluded from the businesses. There were tons of businesses, and if you actually drive, let's say, we're 5 minutes away from 46, we can go to Target, we can go to ShopRite, we can go to Home Depot. Everything is pretty much packed together, right? But when you go into our neighborhood, you can hear a pin drop at times, you know? One of the things that I am a little bit mindful is 202, pretty much in the afternoons gets gridlocked. My wife is about 25 minutes without traffic door to door, but then she'll spend, I want to say maybe 20 minutes just getting from Route 10 to our property. So one of the things to consider, and I don't know when in the planning board process this would take place, but also account for the traffic, right? Because if we actually put warehousing especially, you're talking about big trucks actually going back and forth on 202 possibly, right? So that could hold up traffic. And on top of that, you've got the high school over there that lets out in the afternoons, right? So I don't know what the process is. I don't know how the approval works again. I just got a notice from one of my neighbors that this was going on, so I wanted to get a little bit of information. But one of the things to consider is you've got residents here that have been here for 30, 40 years, right? The town has to evolve, and the world's going to evolve, right? Residential housing is a part of life now, where if you went 50 years ago, didn't really seem that much, right? So you got to evolve. And sometimes you got to play the bad guy, because at the end of the day, if the town has no money, town goes under, right? I get it, 100%, and vacant properties make no money, right? One of the things to possibly consider, instead of doing, affordable housing, turn them into residential properties. Houses around Parsippany, especially the Lake Parsippany area, sell pretty quickly, right? And you could also actually leverage the taxes, of residents moving into that area. That might be one option. One question I have for you guys, though, is, so for the process, right? So right now the ordinance is being reviewed. When does that actually get approved? Is it before the planning group come in, or is it actually after? It's tonight?
Tonight.
Okay, so it's pretty much gonna pass at this point, I'm assuming, right?
This is the second reading.
Okay, so the second, I'm sorry, this is the first time I actually heard about it just a week ago.
Yes, it will be voted on this evening.
Okay, so one thing, if it does pass, I love the idea that Mike actually mentioned about putting trees to actually blockade between the residents. The key at the end of the day is, look, I have two little girls, right? I'm right on the other side of the stream from the baseball park, right? We've got people that actually cut across down our dead-end road to get to the baseball park, and that's fine. But then I also have people that actually come from the baseball park with their dog, pee on my property on their way up, right? So one thing to kind of consider is, if this is going to take effect, blockade off the residents. Make sure that you're not losing the people that have been here for 30 to 40 years because they're looking for peace of life. I mean, look, by the time you go into retirement, you just want peace and quiet, right? You don't want to have to look in the middle of the night and you see headlights, or you see a building or some kind of commotion or something going on, which can happen with affordable housing sometimes. It's the truth, right? So if it's gonna take effect, the one thing I do ask is be mindful of the traffic. If they need to do something as far as redirecting traffic or setting up a different road or a different path, whatever it might be, and also just blockading off. Even if we don't get the 150-foot buffer, you know, put something there so it actually acts as some sort of visual cancellation or noise cancellation, you know? Like protect the residents.
If I can just say one thing, and I'll be
Sure,
short.
definitely.
The difference between affordable housing application and an application like this, we have more control on traffic
Right.
than we do on affordable housing, because all they can deny is on-site traffic, not off-site when it comes to affordable housing. And I think that's the rule, if I'm correct.
Hmm.
So we have more control with this type of an ordinance and with that type of, application we put in. We don't have any control off-site on traffic when it comes to affordable housing.
Because anybody goes anywhere.
That's why they tie our hands. It's just,
Gotcha.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
My name is Teresa Pesh, I live in Murray Court, and I really didn't plan on talking, but it seems to me that the ordinance is about the warehouse, not affordable housing. So it sounds like the decision's already been made without even having any say from the people that actually live there. You're supposed to represent the people. I don't think you're supposed to represent the planning board. And it gets just really confusing to think that if you're supposed to represent the people, how come it sounds like the decision's already been made to have the warehouse? And I'm not here to go back and forth. It just doesn't feel, it feels like you're worried about the taxes, but why not make the buildings more appealing to businesses coming in instead of tearing down what's there, putting warehouses up and adding to the traffic that's already horrendous? And more people are going to work from the whole pandemic era. More people are going to work, so there's going to be even more traffic, and there probably will be more people going into the businesses that are in the Parsippany area. And that's all I have to say. But I just like you to remember that you're here for the people. We're not supposed to be answering to you. Is you got elected to serve the people, not the planning board. Thank you.
I would really like to respond to that. First and foremost, everybody up here does serve the people of Parsippany. We have tasks that we have to deal with, and you made a comment with regards, no one's coming into Parsippany. We're not getting the companies to come in. We're trying, but they're not, because they're repurposing themselves. They're reorganizing their way, the way they structure. Banks are actually downsizing now because people are working from home. With that being said, all I was trying to say is that we are representing the people, because we know, and I know, being a mayor for 8 years going, and this is my second year, makes me 10 years, I know that it's not an affordable housing application. Of course it's not. But if you deny it, it will become one. We've seen it already. We've seen it in the land index. We've seen it on McCallie, and that's what's happening. If you deny this, I will guarantee you're going to get affordable housing. And it would be so much more of an impact on Parsippany because of the amount of housing they can put in those three areas. It would be astronomical. It would be very similar to what Land Index is getting, which is 600 units. You're looking over 600 units, maybe more than 600 units over there, plus which hasn't been built yet, which has been approved over the last 4 years. So we know it's not an affordable housing application, but it will. I was when he was a councilman in 2013, we said it. If, we can deny the overlay zone on Waterview, and you're not like what's gonna come next. And it was denied. The Whole Foods was denied, everything was denied, and guess what came next? A 100% affordable housing application. You know what that means? You can't deny it. 100% affordable housing, which is every unit would have been affordable housing, which makes it inherently beneficial use, which ties the township's hand.
666 apartments.
Right, and we didn't want that to happen. And it's the same thing here. I wish we could stop it. I wish we could stop all the building in town. It's the same thing. They call it builder's remedy, and affordable housing, just my opinion, I might get ridiculed for this. Affordable housing only, benefits the developer, not the towns, and that's a fact. But the law's on their side. So we have to negotiate, and we have to work with them. So, and I know, you know, I get we don't want it built, I don't want to see it built either. I grew up in town, I used to be all woods over there, I used to walk through there to Llewellyn Farms to work as a kid. But times have changed, and those ratables really kept our taxes low, and now we're not seeing them in the way we used to. We have a newly, an economic development committee that I'm actually pumping money into, and asking the council to approve it, $30,000 into the Economic Development Committee, so we can reach out to other companies that we think might be leaving another town to come here. GAF was one of them when I was the mayor the first time around. We brought them from Wayne to get them here, so that didn't become affordable housing. That was a 40-acre site. So it's a delicate balance, that's all I can say. Thank you.
See no one come forward. I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make the motion.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Floor is closed.
Ordinance 2023:02. An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter 4, Article 9, entitled Police Department of the Township Code. Be it resolved that the above ordinance be introduced, read by title, and passed on first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, held on February 21st, 2023, and that said ordinance be further considered for second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held on March 21st, 2023 at 7 p.m. prevailing time, or as soon thereafter as the matter may be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance with the notice of introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call, Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Ordinance 2023:03, an ordinance of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, authorizing the acquisition of property commonly known as 369 Knoll Road and shown as Lot 7 and Block 469 of the official tax map of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills. Be it further resolved that the above ordinance be introduced, read by title, and passed on first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills held on February 21st, 2023, and that said ordinance be further considered for second reading and final passage at a meeting to be held on March 21st, 2023, at 7 p.m. prevailing time, or as soon thereafter as the matter may be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance. Be it further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinance with the notice of introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution made by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call. Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Mr. Musella.
Yes.
Mr. Neglia.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Second reading and public hearing ordinance 2023:01, an ordinance of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, creating Chapter 430 zoning, Article LX3, OVL-8 overlay district, and providing use and bulk standards for such overlay district. Notice of ordinance 23:01 was published in the Daily Record, the official newspaper of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, on February 7th, 2023, and introduced at the January 24th, 2023 agenda meeting. Motion to accept ordinance 2023:01 be heard in their second and final reading by title only by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Public hearing, motion to open up the public hearing for this ordinance and this ordinance only by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
The floor is open to the public to speak on this ordinance only. You have 5 minutes to speak.
Which ordinance is this?
This is the overlay ordinance.
See no one come forward, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Whereas the above ordinance was read in title on second reading and hearing held thereon, now therefore be it resolved that said ordinance be passed to final reading and that notice of final passage of said ordinance be published in the newspaper according to law. Motion to approve resolution above for ordinance 2023:01 by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Non-consent agenda, Resolution R 2023-046, authorizing an agreement with Alpha Dog Solution, Inc. for maintenance. Motion to approve the resolution above by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Neglia, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Resolution 2023-047, authorizing the execution of a shared service agreement relating to Whippany River Flood Mitigation Task Force. Motion to approve the resolution above by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Consent agenda, be it resolved that all items listed with an asterisk are routine and non-controversial by the Township Council will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the council member so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda, considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Motion to approve the consent agenda by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. Neglia. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani? Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes. That's payroll.
Approval of payroll and bills list. CFO Leonard Ho recommends authorization for payment. Authorization payment of the February 17th, 2023 regular and miscellaneous payroll estimated at $1.65 million. 2, payment of bills from voucher list of February 15th, 2023 through February 17th, 2023 is $5,640,975. Motion to approve the authorization for payment above by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Musella, seconded by Mr. Karifi. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Council President, before you do that,
Yes, sir.
I just want to be transparent with regards to the ordinance with the Casa property and what it means with regards that we went back and forth, we had negotiations with the gentleman that owned the property, because, you know, this is the last tract to complete, I think at 30 acres of open space. So we had approximately, I'm just using approximate numbers, $1.5 million for the property, but I felt it was important for us to get the property. The deal seemed like it was going to die, was going nowhere. So I said to them that we would go as high as 1.9, which we did. But I would need that ordinance, what that ordinance does is, the council allows us to go above the 1.5 million. We would use an additional 400,000 of open space trust fund money to purchase the property, depending on the open space meeting, that I'm gonna have.
That property was in the middle, it's like a jigsaw puzzle.
Right.
That piece is in the middle. Without that piece, you don't have 30 acres of contiguous property.
Right.
You needed that piece, so
Right.
it has a little extra value to fill in, so we have a full 30 acres.
Right, so that's why, I offered the 1.9 million, so we didn't get the property, not the 8 million that he wanted, so.
Mayor,
But-
excuse me, go ahead.
And that's really the basic list, so that ordinance allows you, for us, you approve the spending over the 1.5 million, 1.6 million.
Okay.
And then,
We've been negotiating that for at least 20 years.
oh, easily, but we finally got it.
And with the with this property, what are we proposing to,
Right now, passive recreation, no ball fields or anything like that. I know that they wanted to put ball fields there before, but it would've just been too egregious in that area because it's completely surrounded by residential, and you couldn't put lights there, but we do need more residential, more passive recreation here in Parsippany.
thank you. I'd like to have a motion to adjourn the meeting, please.
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Karifi, seconded by Mr. DePiero. Roll call. Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Musella?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Mr. Neglia?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes,
We are adjourned. Have a good night, everyone.
thank you.